Now in this video, I'm giving instructions how to pull apart the exhaust manifold to get to the starter motor. Now I did the starter motor a bit over 6 months ago. However, what I should have also done was have a better look at the lead, because as you can see here, the old lead is pretty burnt out. So I replaced it with this newer one here, which is also thicker. So as you can see down the bottom there, this is a new lead going all the way to the relay in the start there. So, cut a long story short, if you want to know how to pull this apart, just look at this video in reverse order. So, getting back to it, to keep it simple as possible, I took it off in as few pieces as possible. I'll show you what I mean. So this is the exhaust manifold here. As you can see, I left it as much as I could in one piece. Now when I originally did the starter motor 6 months ago, I did take it all apart, but doing it a second time I realised I didn't have to do that. So wherever you can, leave it in one piece, and I'll show you how I put it back together. But I've cleaned all this up using a scraper, and I just use a little bit of cloth with a little bit of degreaser, and I'll show you where I go from here. So there's the exhaust gasket, just making sure it goes on the right way. Now I am being recommended by someone who's really in the know. That's my brother-in-law Mario, who seems to know everything about everything. He suggested I put on some silicone, which I'm doing, but what he specifically said was make sure you get acetic silicone. Yeah, that's better out of the light. So don't get the neutral, get the acetic, because apparently it bites into it a lot better. So what I'm going to do is put a very thin layer both sides of the gasket, and then I'll be ready to put it on. You may have noticed before I had the gasket around the wrong way. Now I've actually got it around the right way, because these holes have to be in the right place, the water jacket holes. Okay, keep that in mind too. As you can see there, I've applied it on one side, and I've tried to do as light a smear as possible. So I've smeared it nice and lightly with my fingers, and now I'll just turn it over and put it on. Okay, so I've just applied some of that acetic silicone to this side as well, and you'll know it's acetic because it'll have that vinegary smell. So now it's ready to put on. One thing I should point out, see there's two bolts here, and one of them is connected to the earth wire. Now they're the two bolts that you have to undo to get the starter motor out, and then the starter motor just moves that way. You might have to tap it slightly with a mallet, but that's how that would work when you take the starter motor out. And obviously it goes opposite to put it back in. Now one thing you're going to have to remember as well, or I have to remember before the manifold goes back in, is that you've got this hose here. Now where that connects to is just on this part in the bottom of the manifold. So I've got to get to that before I start putting the bolts in, otherwise I'm going to have all sorts of trouble trying to get it connected later on. Now I took off this pipe just to make this part of the exhaust, just to make it easier to get it on. So because there's a little bit of flex in there, that's a good thing for when I'm getting the manifold on. So as you can see just there, it's a bit loose, and we'll tighten it all up after the manifold's up and running. Okay, so this is the port side of the manifest. This is it flipped over, and that's where it'll connect to here is where it'll connect to the exhaust. So just keep in mind they're the 12 bolts that we'll have to tighten up. Now we have to put those in now because, as you can see there, they are extremely long, and if you don't put them in now, they're not going to be able to come around and fit in later. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so this is the hose that I was saying has to attach to the bottom there. So I'm going to attach that in this position and tighten that up, and then I'll just swing this around and put it in. Okay, I'll show you where I'm lining it up. I put, as you can see, this bolt here and this bolt here. So I've put those in, and then there's two more that come up and down. You'll see there's an empty one there, and there's one in there. Now, a little trick to not use your nut. I use this magnetic end. It's a little wand to pick up screws. So I'm using that to just put it in there. And as soon as it bites on grip, now it doesn't want to let go. There we go. So then that's in there, and now I can just use my socket to take it off. Okay, now that they're in sort of tight, what I'll do is I'll reach in around the back with my 14mm socket, which incidentally is the same size there, and I'll reach around, and that's to do with the ones on this side, and on that side I'll approach from the other end because I'm right-handed. And so to make things a bit more comfortable, because you do spend a bit of time there on your stomach laying across here, I've just got this old pillow and so it won't hurt as much. Okay, I've tightened it all up, and trust me, this pillow folded over double, you might call me soft, but it really came in handy, I thought. Okay, so first things first, I've just plugged up that, see this hose here, just, yep, next to the first cylinder, and so I've got to tighten that, and then we've also got, here it is, up the top here, I'll put that on, and then I'll cable tie that as well. Now the next one I'm going to do is this one here, so I'll do that. Give us a sec. So next I put on the temperature sensor, which is just here. So that plugs into, oh, sorry about the terrible camera work, that plugs into there, and then you've got this little bracket here. So a little bracket, so I'll just take those two bolts off and put that bracket on, and that holds it in place. Okay, and then, so after fitting the temperature sensor there, the last hose we have to worry about is, the cable ties. There's a hose which runs along the back here. Hang on, let's see if, here it is. This one here, it'll be the last one, and it just plugs up, see if I can get a view of it, just there. Okay, and I think that'll be it. I'll just check my photos, but assuming that's the last one, well, when I tighten it, that's the end of the video. We'll find out in a minute. Okay, so when everything here is tightened, make sure, I didn't mention earlier, make sure you tighten the seal for the exhaust there, and also the seal for exhaust there as well, because if it's not sealed, well, for a start it gets a bit noisy, but all that was last time when I put it together, I didn't put the seal on properly, so it's a good thing to do. And lastly but not least, don't forget to reconnect your battery. In case you're wondering what those extra wires are, what I actually have here, I have an Anderson plug on the back of my jet ski. Reason for that is over winter when I'm not using it much, I just have a small solar panel sitting on top, and it'll just trickle charge the battery. And while I'm driving to the lake, I'll have an extension lead running from there to an Anderson plug on the back of my car, and so by the time I get to the lake, my jet ski is fully charged, so if it doesn't start first time, I've got quite a few starts left in it in the battery to get it going. Well, hope this video is informative for you, and see you out on the lake.